this is Ben Wren with the Lamp Theater here in downtown Irwin, sitting here with George Dvorsky, and we're going to be talking about our very first musical production coming up this October 15th through the 18th, and that's going to be the longest running musical in New York history, The Fantastics. George, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Now, George, you're a Westmoreland County native. We recently had a chance to sit down and talk about some of your experiences on and off Broadway, but one of the experiences that you had was stepping into the lead role in the long-running musical, The Fantastics, as El Gallo.
Yes.
How did that come about?
In 2006, I had done a production of Tom Jones and Harvey Schmidt's 110 in the Shade in Houston. Harvey lives down there, so he came to see it, and Tom flew down to see the production, and I played File. And Tom came up to me after the show and said, "You'd be a great El Gallo. We're going to revive The Fantastics," because they had closed at the Sullivan Street Theater after 42 years, I believe. So I went in for his auditions, my final callback happened, and he called me about a week later and said, "Can you come in for a work session?" And I was leaving that afternoon to do Seven Brides for Seven Brothers here in Pittsburgh, Sound of Music out in Sacramento. I had a whole summer of work lined up, and I said, "I can't because I have no understudy in the summer stock." So I basically passed up the chance to go in to do the Broadway revival. So in 2013, I believe it was, the associate director of the show, who I knew, called and said he talked to Tom Jones, and Tom said, "Just hire George." So I came in and did 10 months of the show.
Wow, now how would you describe The Fantastics to someone who's brand new, as many of our viewers probably are?
One of the quirkiest, beautiful, as bizarre as that, it's quirky and beautiful. The story is so beautiful and so timeless. It's basically boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. But it's told in such a beautiful way, and it's almost like, I know off-Broadway and in the original show, it was basically like a circus, the opening scene. In fact, I had to learn to juggle in that, which, yeah, my 10th month I was really good in it, but the first couple, there were a lot of drops. But it's basically like going to a little circus, and it's a vaudeville show. Everything takes place out of a trunk. They open up this trunk and bring all the props and all the set pieces out.
A couple characters.
Yes, exactly. And it's a timeless piece of theater with one of the most beautiful scores. I actually learned the score first. My voice coach of many years loved that score, so I knew all those songs before I even got the show. Before I even saw the show, I went down and saw a friend of mine play Matt at the Sullivan Street, and thought I'd love to do the show sometime. And then I knew Jerry Orbach, may he rest in peace, who was the original El Gallo, and we had done a cruise together for the Theater Guild, and he said, "You should play that role sometime," and then 5 years later I did. So it's such a beautiful little show, and Tom Jones calls it a work in progress. It's been running for, what, 55 years of 1 year off, and it's still, he goes in and tweaks it and makes little adjustments. And when I played El Gallo, he had me do an accent, and I was the only El Gallo ever to use an accent.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was fun.
How would you describe El Gallo and his kind of role in the show?
He's the ringleader, the ringmaster. He pulls everyone together, makes things happen, as a magician would do at times. He manipulates a lot of things too. I think, and he sees in him Matt, the young man. Matt starts the journey that El Gallo already took, and I think El Gallo directs him through that so he can see what life truly is, because he had already lived it.
Now, you mentioned him before, but what was it like working with Tom Jones, who is the author and director and the
Frustrating.
Frustrating.
I'd been in the show 3 weeks, and Tom came to see it, and he wanted to make some tweaks. Well, my entrance, which I thought was just an entrance, you walk out, go get the balls. We spent 20 minutes on it. I didn't know why. I didn't know what he kept it. Just do it again. See if you can do this. See if you can do that. And I thought, why are we spending 20 minutes on this? Because we only had 2 hours to do the whole show. Mm-hmm. But he gave me some great things to think about that did change my whole performance. But the 20 minutes I thought, what are we doing this for? Then it paid off.
Now, The Fantastics has run for over 20,000 performances up in New York, and just an unprecedented number. Why do you think, and what lessons do you think audiences today take from a show that opened in, what, 1965?
Yeah, 60.
60.
Yeah, it was written in 60 and opened there at the Sullivan Street. Life lessons. that still hold true, and that's why I think it's so great about the show, because it's timeless in the way it doesn't take the set. Like I said, is just 2 poles and a platform, and then that is a bench and the trunk, and the rest, it can be anywhere. It can take place anywhere. In fact, the TV show that they did, when I got into the show, John Davison was playing Bellamy. He had played Matt in the TV production in the 60s, and they had a real set and a real wall. What's interesting about the show, everything is basically imaginary. There are little pieces and things, but it's such a timeless, beautiful piece, and I think people will fall in love with it all over again. Even if they've seen it, we had people come back 20 times to see it because it's just such a simple story, and that score is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh,
Try to Remember is the big hit that people would know, but other great songs too. There's not a dud in it.
No, absolutely. I had a chance to see it last August up in New York, and I first saw it as a kid when my dad played the Mute, which is a
fun.
for those who are coming to see it, the Mute's kind of like the prop master of.
He's the cast of thousands.
Yes, he does a little bit of everything.
He plays all the other parts. It's fun.
So I've been in love with this show for 20 years. Why do you think it's a good show to start a theater with?
Because of its simplicity. I think the simplicity of that show just makes it enlivens any space you put it in. Whether it's a stage like this or the Snapple Theater is just basically someone's living room, actually. Yeah. It's so small. In fact, they had to lower the bench for me because I'm 6'4" and my head was hitting the top of the...
Yeah, that's true.
Where the lights were.
That would happen.
So they cut an inch off the bench so I could stand on the bench. But anywhere it's done, it's just such a beautiful, I'm repeating myself, it's such a, the life lessons that it teaches and the simplicity of it really rings true to so many people. People cry when they see the show.
Yeah. One of the things I've always enjoyed about the show is how it engages the audience. It doesn't force anything upon the audience. One person may see something completely different than that person next to them sees.
Right.
And that's really what theater is about.
Yes.
Is engaging yourself in the telling of that
You
story.
get lost in it.
Yeah.
You truly get lost in it. And people will see something different each time they see it.
George, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Come see the Fantastics October 15th through the 18th. Tickets are available at lamptheater.org.
You will love it. I promise. Great show.
Great.
Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow will follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, without the hurt, the heart is hollow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fire of September that made us mellow. Deep in December, our hearts should remember and follow.